Well, welcome back to this Tuscany painting. I am working now on the little barrel cactus. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, I'm working on the barrel wagon that I guess I have some barrel cactus out in my garden, so maybe that's where it came from. But anyway, this is going to be a mixture of a turquoise blue made of phthalo blue plus a little bit of phthalo turquoise blue. That's a Rembrandt oil color. It's a special color, and we use some of these colors that aren't on a regular palette, but this is Rembrandt phthalo turquoise blue, and I've mixed the two together to give a little more of a turquoise hint to this phthalo blue. This is an old wine barrel that's been converted into a wagon, and so it's been painted this deep turquoise blue, and it makes a nice combination with all the terracotta pots around it. And it's kind of weathered, so I'm going to put there's going to be a little texture in here. And then down on the bottom edge where the barrel rounds out, I'm going to use a little mix of white plus ultramarine blue. And this will give a blue, this will just make that bottom of the barrel just round. Kind of give it the feeling that it's round. I'll paint the wheels later, but right now I'm just working on the barrel part of the body of the wagon. I've done several paintings for this collector, and Jenna just really comes up with some fun ideas. We've got some kitties in here that are different ones that she's had during her life, and just a lot of fun. That's the fun part of doing commissions, is adding all those little special touches. Now the sun's really hitting this end of the barrel. Then there's a wood, on these wood barrels, then there'll be, that end comes up just a little bit, so it's a little darker there on that inside edge of it. And then there's a rim that again is the lights hitting. And this is again that same mixture, the phthalo blue plus phthalo turquoise blue plus white. Then there's a band of wrought iron. Clean my brush out. And for this, I'm starting out with a mixture of just my mud plus liquid to give me a dark base for that metal band that goes around the barrel. And I've designed the painting. This is done in a gallery wrap style, so the image extends around the sides of the canvas. And I've designed this so that I'll have flowers coming up over the barrel on this side, so that I don't have to do that perspective going around the edge. I do that on the floors, and it took me a while to figure out how to do that. And sometimes I have done a few that had tables and chairs, that the tables and chairs went around the sides, and figuring out that perspective as it goes around that edge is not one of the easiest things in the world. But this that's the nice thing about flowers, is you can use them to disguise a whole lot of things. Plus it makes the painting just all full of flowers and bright and happy, so it serves several purposes. Now I'm going to use a little bit of just almost pure white. This has just a little bit of that phthalo blue mixed into it, and just to highlight this edge here. And we're going to have pumpkins in this, and again, that blue and orange combination will just make the blue The blue and orange are complementary colors. In other words, they're across from each other on the color wheel. So by putting complementary colors next to each other, that makes them appear brighter. So the orange pumpkins will make the blue appear brighter, and the blue wagon will make the orange appear brighter. So it works both ways. And then I'm going to take a darker mixture of that same and make my little separations between the individual boards making up this top of this barrel. Now I'm just going to add a little, I don't want this just to look freshly painted. This is a weathered, so there's some texture and roughness to that, those boards. Now I'm using a little bit of my mud. I needed those crevices to be a little bit darker. Again, I'm using my lightest mixture here, just so that stands out from the back. Want that to stand out from those other boards that are the top of were originally the top of the barrel. Now I'm going to make my crevices in the boards making up the side of the barrel. Again, this is my mud plus liquid. And these, if you notice, they these boards get a little curved because the barrel is round. It's not totally cylindrical, straight up and down. So actually I need those lines to be a little bit closer where that barrel goes around. And then I'm going to use that ultramarine blue plus white mix just a little bit right there. And I've got some dark back in here behind the tongue. I'm going to use a little bit of my mud mix back there just to make that dark. And these spokes of the wheel back here, I just want those to be dark so they drop back. I'm not going to have a lot of detail there. Now I went over a little bit over my pot there in the back. So I've saved all of my colors, so I can just come back and use my mixes there to cover that over. Now the tongue, this side of the tongue is going to be darker because it's in shadow. The light's coming in from the left-hand side. I make sure that my initial drawing is accurate, so then when it comes time to painting, all I have to do is follow my drawing that I drew up on the canvas. And my initial sketch is done with a mixture of my mud, which is alizarin crimson plus ultramarine blue plus liquid. And that just gives me a nice kind of a deep purple that I draw in my plan up on the canvas. And I label my flowers where they're all going to be. Now, actually, I'm going to change these two flowers here. I'm going to put these black-eyed Susans here and the poppies here, because at the last, Jenna decided that she wanted sort of a deep wine-colored door. I'm not going to answer the phone. It's just too interruptive while I paint. If it's important, they will leave a message. If it's a sales call, they'll just not. You can spend too much time jumping back and forth answering calls that aren't important. Anyhow, I'm going to change my flowers because the poppies are going to be pink, and the pink would not look good against that wine-colored door. So I'm going to have my yellows here against that, and then have the pink poppies here. And then we'll have magenta petunias in these pots and purple salvia in that one. I hope you can see what I'm pointing at. Anyway, back to the tongue of our tongue and handle of our little wagon. And this gets wider as it gets closer to the wagon. And I can just brace against my easel to steady my hand as I'm doing this. And I use the lighter mixture because with the light coming in from the left, it hits the top of that handle. Or the tongue. Now here we're going to make the handle. And the side is dark there. And I keep wiping my brush with tissue. The secret to nice, clean, crisp color on your canvas is having a clean brush. So I wipe my brush quite often with tissue, and I do it 1 or 2 wipes and throw it away. If you hang on to the tissue too long, you end up getting paint all over your hands, and then you get it all over you and all over everything else, and then you're cleaning up paint off of everything. So I have a friend that I paint with occasionally that she'll hang on to that tissue and she ends up with paint all over her brushes, her paint tubes. It's just, I tease her, but that's her way of painting. I just don't like to clean up that much, so I throw my tissue away more often so I don't have to clean up after everything's done. Okay, now here's my lightest mixture on the top of that handle. And I make the part of it closest to is the lightest, so that will come forward. And put a little highlight on this edge. And this upright's going to be a little, even though it's in the light, it's going to be a little bit darker because the top of that is catching more sunlight. The sunlight's coming from up above, so the top surface of this is catching more light. So even though this front surface is hit by the light, it's not as bright because it doesn't receive as much light. Then I'm going to use my little bit of white and just really accentuate this edge. Now this is my mixture with the white plus the blue, and then I do this edge. I don't want it to be quite as bright as that front part of the handle. And then this back here is the hinge of the tongue, and I'm just going to let that kind of go back. The top edge will be a little bit lighter there, and then that's dark. That comes out, but that's not as much light. It doesn't get quite as much light there. And then there's a bolt or something here that hinges on. Now I just make that with a little bit of my mud plus liquid. The top surface of that gets a highlight. Now on the metal, it's going to be rusted, so I just take some of my floor color, which is my mud plus a little bit of cadmium orange, and I just add some browns into that, so that gives a feeling of that's a rusted metal iron strap. And then I add a little bit of that ultramarine blue mix down here to make it turn underneath, and just a little bit more of that. And I just, since that mud is still wet, I just kind of work that into that. So that kind of gives the appearance that it's a rusted And I want that kind of rough, just a rusty metal. And there'll be a little highlight along this edge of that strapping. And a little light on the top edge of it, where it's cut edge. And that's our little wine barrel wagon. I thank you for following along, and thank you for watching my YouTube videos. Please subscribe to my channel. I also have a blog. The link is in the description below. I also have the address on the final frame of my video. I appreciate you visiting our studio, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.